ever wonder what's going on inside your little one's brain the second you put them down to sleep? As a mom of two and pediatric sleep consultant, I know how maddening it is when you think you finally nailed bedtime, only for your baby to react like you just laid them down on a bed of nails. In this video, we're stepping inside your baby's brain across every age and stage to decode what their crib reactions are actually trying to tell you, from newborn reflexes to boundary testing. Once you understand the psychology behind their cries, you can stop guessing, work with their brain, and finally get your peaceful evenings back. And stick around because in just a few minutes, I'm going to explain the exact mental shift that happens at 6 months old, where your baby starts testing your reactions, and why your response in that moment may dictate whether they sleep through the night. Okay, let's start with our youngest babies, the 0 to 3 month age. Right now, your baby's nervous system is operating on pure survival and instinct. At 0 to 3 months old, babies have zero biological capability to self-soothe or regulate their own nervous system. They rely 100% on you to soothe them to sleep through things like feeding, sleeping, rocking, or even motion. At this age, developmental milestones like separation anxiety, fear of the dark, or testing boundaries, they just simply don't exist yet. So then why do crib transfers fail? Well, waking up during a crib transfer at this age is really just a reflex, is a physical reflex. They feel the loss of your body heat, the motion, and their unformed nervous system startles awake. So how do you optimize the environment? How do you try to make this easier? Because they aren't afraid of the dark, placing them in a cool, dark room with white noise can help calm their overstimulated senses without triggering fear. At this age, helping your newborn fall asleep isn't creating bad habits. It's a biological necessity. So soak in those newborn snuggles with zero guilt, knowing that supporting them now builds the safe foundation they need for later. Soon, I'm going to walk you through how to respond to transfer frustration in a way that lovingly supports your baby without getting trapped in the endless pick up, put down cycle. But before we move on to 4 months, if you're feeling confused or overwhelmed by newborn wake windows, grab my free sleep chart linked in the description below. It shows exact age-based timing so you never put down an overtired baby. Right around 4 months old, a massive neurological shift happens that completely changes how your baby reacts to being put down. Their sleep architecture matures, and their brain begins developing the physical capability to self-soothe and nervous system self-regulation. They start recognizing object impermanence and begin to realize your physical absence when they're placed in a crib. Because the skill is brand new, they don't yet know how to put themselves to sleep independently without you. So why do they cry then at the transfer? When you put them down and they immediately cry, it's not out of fear or manipulation. It's a direct call for help because they lack the skill to cross the sleep finish line on their own. They are transitioning from total reliance on you to early practice of self-soothing, which can feel frustrating and confusing for their little brain. So what do? Stop taking their transfer cries personally and start seeing this as a request for guidance as they learn a brand new skill. Recognizing this 4-month transition gives you the clarity to pivot from holding them through every sleep cycle to gently supporting their practice. Once your baby gets 6 months and older, the psychology gets much deeper. And this is where bedtime can start to feel like a high-stakes chess match. At 6 months old, babies fully possess the biological capability to self-soothe if they've been taught the skill, while also mastering now the concept of cause and effect. They now understand when you leave the room, which can trigger separation anxiety and potential nighttime fears. Things like being afraid of the dark typically start somewhere around this age. They are going to consciously test their boundaries to figure out what specific noise or cry or how long do I need to do it to get mom and dad back in the room. So what does it mean when they cry as you transfer them to the crib at this age? Crying upon transfer usually stems from one of three things. Either they're going to test their boundaries to see how you will react, there's a feeling of genuine fear or separation anxiety, or there's intense frustration because they lack the skill to fall asleep on their own. If crying consistently brings you back in the room to rock them all the way to sleep, their smart brain registers that this is a repeatable system. With this knowledge, you now have the ability to distinguish between a cry of genuine fear and a cry of boundary testing or frustration. Understanding their cause and effect thinking allows you to set calm, loving sleep boundaries that make your baby feel safe and secure. I'd love to know where your baby is developmentally. Comment below with their age and tell me, do you think your baby's transfer cry is frustration, boundary testing, or fear? Now that we understand the age breakdown, we have to talk about the emotional psychology of crying, because not every cry means that your baby is upset. Before words, crying is your baby's primary language, and it's their only tool for communication until they develop verbal words. A cry can express so many things: frustration, physical discomfort, tiredness, fear, boundary testing, or simply processing sensory overload. As parents, our instinct is to equate any cry with suffering, which causes us to rush in and eliminate the discomfort immediately. When a baby cries because they're put down, it often means, I'm frustrated because I don't know how to do this fast on my own, and I just want you to do it for me. As parents, our job isn't to prevent all frustration. Our job is to meet their legitimate needs while allowing them space to work through learning challenges. Use this knowledge to give you the emotional groundedness needed to guide them effectively. When you learn to decode their cries instead of fearing them, you can offer love and comfort without accidentally stopping their learning process. If you want help matching your baby's cries with their ideal sleep schedule, grab my free sleep chart linked below. It keeps their biological sleep perfectly balanced. So now that you understand the psychology behind why your baby wakes up the second they hit the mattress, what do you do with this knowledge? You work with their psychology by teaching them the skill of independent sleep in a way that feels loving, safe, and aligned with your family. You differentiate between addressing genuine need, things like hunger, illness, fear, and stepping back to let them practice self-soothing through temporary frustration. And lastly, you establish clear, repeatable bedtime cues that reassure their crib is a safe, predictable place. Instead of doing 100% of the work for them, you provide loving support, reassurance, physical presence, or consistent routines, while letting them take the last step to fall asleep independently. When placed in their crib awake or calm, they no longer experience transfer shock or panic because they know exactly where they are and how to put themselves to sleep. This will help you eliminate bedtime battles, stop playing the transfer guessing game, and give your baby the gift of consolidated, restful sleep. Teaching independent sleep is not about ignoring your baby. It's about holding space for them to build confidence in their own abilities. To get a clear roadmap for setting up these foundations step by step for your baby's exact age, download my free sleep chart in the description below. Understanding your baby's psychology changes everything from a stressful battle of wills to a journey of growth and connection. You are doing an incredible job. Trust your baby's capability. Lead them with loving consistency, and peaceful nights are just around the corner. Now that you know the psychology of babies who wake the second you put them down, you might be wanting to learn what signals your baby uses to tell you that night wakings are not about hunger. But how do you do that? It all starts by watching this video next, because when you pair what you've just learned with what's in this video, it's way more powerful.